Welcome to the Higher Ed Athletics Podcast. I'm here with Charlie Cobb, Georgia State University Athletic Director. Charlie, thanks for being on the Higher Ed Athletics Podcast.
Travis, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Well, I try to cover interesting stories that, will help me out in my future too, but also the listeners to just think outside the box on some things. And so I'll just dive right into the question that really makes me think of Georgia State athletics is you were part of the acquisition, purchase, and repurposing of Turner Field, which was a Major League Baseball venue, into the home of Georgia State football and creating buzz in the local Summerhill neighborhood on Georgia Avenue and bringing a bigger GSU footprint to Atlanta. So I'm curious how the idea unfolded, what type of steps are involved in getting something like that approved, because I assume there are quite a bit of hurdles from the board, the city, the state, and then the system of Georgia. You all are a state school inside the system. So what is kind of that developing story? I know it might have been in the process before you started, but I know you were heavily involved.
Yeah, the conversations over the stadium were a big part of why I decided to come to Georgia State. I'm a closet architect, and the thought or idea of taking the former Olympic Stadium and then the Braves Stadium and turning it into a football venue for a growing program at Georgia State, being in the city of Atlanta, it was an exciting opportunity that President Becker presented to me. And when I arrived on campus, we were finalizing the purchase. I really attribute it to the relationship that Mark had with the former mayor Kasim Reed, and the fact that the footprint for the university is literally adjacent to the property. And so it was, in a lot of respects, some of the similar things that the Braves were trying to do in terms of creating a retail environment and a neighborhood feel around the stadium, and something that they may have they've accomplished with the Battery where they are now up in Cobb County. But it left a great opportunity for us. The property itself was about 70 acres. We were fortunate to partner with local developers, Carter, Scott Taylor and his group do a tremendous development business, if you will. And the mayor really had a goal of saying at least half the property to be used for revenue producing income for the city, i.e. property taxes. And so the university being a state institution, we don't have that opportunity. And so we needed private assistance to make that happen. And once we secured the acreage, obviously the stadium was very important for us, and the repurposing of the stadium into a football venue was just, it's one of the coolest things to be a part of, and to have a vision and a thought as to football fitting inside the stadium and being able to work with our team and the architects and the contractors to make that happen. It's been tremendous. 3 years for us, 4 years in that process, and then to also work with the guys at Carter, because we've already created a private dorm that's sits in the 70 acres. There's an apartment complex that's under construction now. A grocery store is to come. They've been able to take 11 businesses that were closed and boarded up on Georgia Avenue, adjacent to the stadium, between really our stadium and the zoo, and open those back up. And obviously, COVID has impacted those local businesses, but we've tried to help us, in every way possible. But we've revitalized an area around the stadium, and will continue to grow as the grocery store comes online, as more housing comes online, more retail property. And then from the private side, frankly, there's a 5-acre piece of land for a corporate relocation into downtown Atlanta. It's the largest acreage for a company that would look to relocate that's in Atlanta. So with the Chamber of Commerce and other entities, Central Atlanta Progress, the University, and Carter are marketing that piece actively. Where it ties back to the university is that the stadium sits at the south end of the property. On the north end of the property, within the next couple of weeks, we'll actually do a groundbreaking on a 7,500-seat convocation center. We'll play basketball in there, but obviously it'll have a multi-purpose use for campus, and certainly will become an iconic part as kind of a gateway from downtown into the complex. The idea for us, selfishly, is we're trying to create an athletics neighborhood. The north end would be a basketball arena, the south end's the stadium, and then in between, where the old Fulton County property, when the Braves originally came to Atlanta, it's parking now, but we're looking to put a baseball softball complex in there so that we can really bring our varsity sport programs that are 15, 20 minutes outside downtown into DeKalb County and bring them back into downtown. So now we have, the walkability of students and staff and faculty and neighbors to come to games.
That's incredible. The athletic villages are starting to become a norm where you kind of get things together, but it's awesome that it's inclusive to the whole university inside the city too. And that's what stuck out to me when I did a little research on the stadium.
Yeah, and the goal, frankly, is to make it where there's academic space, there's livability, there's retail. It's an urban hub, if you will. Sorry, and that's what the university is about. And then we sprinkle in the athletics pieces to really kind of elevate our program.
Yeah, and so sticking with the stadium, Georgia State just recently announced a stadium naming rights deal in August. So how does that contractual and approval process work? Once again, does it have to go through a lot of different channels? And what will this deal allow you all to do financially coming out of the pandemic that maybe you couldn't have without a naming rights deal?
The naming rights deal has been huge for us to think about going forward. And we're pretty proud of our partners with Van Wagner and what they were able to work with us on and accomplish. But when we bought the property, the first question came up, are we going to keep the name? And we said, look, we're going to rebrand the Georgia State Stadium. Ultimately, we have the goal. We want to find a naming partner to participate and grow with us, but we don't want it just to be a revenue grab. We want to be somebody that can buy into the values and culture of our campus. And so we were intentionally kind of slow playing that aspect of this project because we wanted to make sure we built a first class facility our fans could enjoy and then our teams could operate out of. And I feel like we've done that, and then some. And so once we got to that point, we said, all right, let's get active in the local community and see who's out there. And the folks with Atlanta Postal Credit Union, they're going through a rebranding of themselves and a little bit of the similar to the Georgia State story, a massive enterprise within Atlanta that doesn't really have a lot of visibility outside of their constituency base. And so as the conversations wore on, we realized that we had a lot in common. Their constituency base is a very similar demographic to the Georgia State alumni base. There's a lot of products and services, and there's a lot of opportunity for co-marketing between the two groups. And so we were able to put a deal together. We're proud of the fact that we were able to get that deal. We're proud that from all accounts, it's the second largest naming rights deal for a corporate naming rights for a college stadium. So we're pretty excited about what we were able to leverage, not only with our university, but also with the metropolitan Atlanta market and make happen. As I was asked, what are we going to do with the money? The deal is going to average about a little over $1.4 million a year over 15 years. We've got some signage issues and some things like that we got to take care of in this first year. And so, that's kind of the focus in the immediate as we get ready to play football. And then we'll work on some marketing programs, beyond that. But the benefit to our student athletes, at the end of the day, the revenue that we're going to generate off this is going to actually help us with some programming that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And it's revolves around mental health. I'd love to be able to hire a couple more counselors to help our kids navigate that process. We probably have a couple of coaching positions where we could use one or two more coaches in certain areas. So we've got some opportunities to really take the revenue created from this and really benefit our kids.
So the timeline of a deal like that. So since not a lot of people do that in college athletics, what's the timeline looking on once you find a good partner for that? And I can understand it can be different government and university systems, but what was the turnaround of finding this partner to actually striking a deal?
Yeah, we probably reached agreement. We made those that needed to know. We try to keep it real quiet, obviously, but those who needed to know, we made them very aware of what we were doing in the spring. And it was right about the time that the pandemic shut the world down. And we continued those conversations throughout the early part of the summer. We had a deal reached probably middle of June, and we needed to run it up the flagpole with not only campus but also the system. And we ran up to Mark, and then obviously Mark and the attorneys took it to the system. We had to get it on the Board of Regents calendar for approval. A lot of conversations in the summer, obviously, about the budget throughout Georgia and through the system. So we had to wait, and it was August when we got approval from the Board of Regents to do this, and then we were able to announce it. But we had a deal done for probably 2 months that we just had to sit on until we got that final approval.
Yeah, I could see it being a strategy coming out of COVID where financially, there might be some more opportunities for athletic facilities to have strategic partner naming rights that
Yeah.
could help.
And honestly, with the groundbreaking on the Convocation Center, we're actively going and doing the same process now for a brand new multi-purpose facility that's probably going to get 180 public events a year, and when it's operable at its prime timing. And so we feel like we've got another great story to tell within this athletics neighborhood that Georgia State's putting together, that can help bring someone else in a similar vein, with the similar goals and aspirations, who have an interest in partnering, but also leveraging relationships to college kids, in a 50,000 student body, and what can be done from those standpoints.
Well, in the previous comment, you mentioned Mark. And so for those listening, that's President Mark Becker of Georgia State. He recently announced his retirement effective June 2021. Steve Wrigley, the University System of Georgia chancellor, had a nice quote saying, quote, "His vision transformed the university's physical campus and lifted intercollegiate athletics to new heights," end quote. I'm just curious, what has it been like working with President Becker over these years, and how do you think he has changed college athletics at Georgia State?
Yeah, first thing I'll answer your question. It was I greatly appreciated Chancellor Wrigley's comments, because I think the fact that athletics is such a visible part of every campus, but I think the growth that we've had at Georgia State, it was a tremendous thank you. But also, I think it talks to the testament of an aligned vision and not only thinking things, but also being able to accomplish them. And so it's been easy for me to work with Mark. We think very similarly, and so the conversations are easy to have and they're natural. It's been, he's a very strategic thinker. He wants data. He doesn't make very many impulsive decisions, but he's got a grand vision and a big picture view of what Georgia State offers Atlanta, and what we do for kids, and especially first generation college kids, because he's one. There's a number of our staff that buy into this and understand it. We all know what we're about in terms of trying to help kids change their economic futures with a college diploma. And so at the end of the day, the idea, he's going to be hard to replace. He's going to be missed. There are a lot of us that have thrived in the environment he's created, the culture that he's created. But the biggest thing I think for anybody, and especially when you work in this position, he adds his opinions and thoughts on how athletics ought to operate, but he has enough confidence and respect to allow us to do our jobs. And the biggest piece, as anybody knows, nobody likes surprises, and so the ability to instantly communicate and have conversations, and sometimes difficult conversations that stay private, has been a blessing, and certainly something that has helped us achieve what we've achieved.
Would you say those are some of the qualities that makes a strong relationship between a college president and his or her athletic director, or is there anything else do you think that the two areas need to understand about each other to be a strong, effective relationship?
Yeah, I think obviously the no surprises piece is a big part of communication. I think shared values is obviously, from a culture standpoint, but an operating principle standpoint, I understand what my job is, and my job is to give kids the opportunity to be competitive and thrive in that environment, but also don't lose sight of the fact that they're there to get an education and ultimately earn a diploma. That's what's going to change their future. That's what's going to change generations. That's going to change the plight of the students that we serve. And so that's a simple model for all of us to understand across our campus. Athletics maybe gets a little bit more public visibility, but as you and I, our introduction was because of your passion for what Dr. Tim Rennick does on our campus with the Student Success Initiative, and all the modeling that we've done, and all the work that our campus has done to eliminate the disparities of graduation rates based on race, income, or ethnicity. And so it's a challenge that we all compete internally to sell that mission, but we also understand it. And then I think at the end of the day, the third thing that's got to happen is there's got to be an understanding that athletics, the role you play within a campus, and it varies at different places and at different levels, but But I understand that the athletic program at Georgia State is incredibly important to our university. It's incredibly important to us and our staff, but it's not the defining piece of our university. And we play that role and recognize and understand our place within the university environment.
Yeah, and Dr. Rennick, senior VP there, and he's basically eliminated the racial barrier of graduation disparities. And who knows, maybe we can use some of his excellence to do the same in college athletics, to do some thinking with that too. But yeah, President Becker, Dr. Rennick, and then those that don't understand, Georgia State is a leader in higher education, and they're in a group called University Innovation Alliance. And I'll be interviewing their executive director soon on the podcast. So I've followed Georgia State University for a long time. So it's great to see him be so supportive of athletics. I want to move to looking back. So you were the athletic department at Appalachian State, had incredible success while you were their athletic director. What was the key to those successes, and how can someone bring that similar blueprint from one institution to an entirely new university? Because you just said that the environment of athletics is different at different institutions. Can you bring similar blueprint, or do you really have to just do a whole new look at the new university?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think maybe with age you get a little bit smarter. But in June, I finished my 15th year of being a Division I athletic director at App and then here. And they're similar situations, but they're also incredibly different. And I think I've learned a tremendous amount over that period of time, and especially around culture and leadership. And the thing that was interesting about App was incredibly hungry. This was 2005, so we're going to go back a few years, but the incredibly hungry for culture change and to grow and become more than just this regional institution up in the mountains. And Ken Peacock is obviously a very dynamic leader and someone who wears Appalachian State on his sleeve on a daily basis and still does, even though he's retired. But there was a big push to grow athletics and maybe see what we could become. And obviously, the simple, easy answer is we started to win some football games, and we won football games in a hurry, and we won some big games in 2005, 2006. FCS or 1AA at the time, national champions. We got people's attention, and we were able to monetize that growth. And then, a day on September 1st, 2007 in Ann Arbor, the Michigan game changed the direction and face of our campus. We knew at the time we had done something pretty cool for Appalachian and our community, our fan base. The national story that it became over the next couple of weeks, and still candidly to this day is something that we saw evolve. But we certainly didn't know it. But what it did was it showed Appalachian that they could grow and become something other than a regional institution. And the thing that I'm probably appreciative of is anything in that experience at App was there's always a tug and pull between academics and athletics. And there's a lot of, if we do this with athletics, it's in some respects to the detriment of the academic community. And what the Michigan game and all the hoopla, the notoriety, the increased applications, the SAT scores, all the other things that happen, the enrollment growth especially, which is revenue to a campus. The university was able to absorb this and grow and expand. And then obviously, what's transpired even since I left. I mean, App is the model program in the Sun Belt. We're trying to get our football program to where Appalachian is, and certainly the success they've had under Doug, and continues to just build and grow, and they've blown it out of the waters. And so it's been fun to see it, but to know where it was and where it is now, and the passion that fan base has for growth. I remember taking the job, and it was, let's point to East Carolina as who we aspire to be. And if you look at it today, I think East Carolina's trying to figure out what Appalachian's doing, and so you can see there's growth and that transition and over time. And it's see it back from the outside, and I still have obviously very good friends, and I kind of watch it vicariously. But the biggest thing that I can offer to someone in terms of transitioning from one job to the next, frankly, is I started keeping a folder, and I still do to this day, of things that, especially decisions or issues that concern me and maybe weren't handled correctly, or maybe they were handled incredibly well. And I just jot notes down all the time and I throw them in a folder. And then I'll periodically will take time and effort to organize those. I think very much, I'm a visual thinker, but I think by outline. And so I'll put an outline together. And when I moved from App to Georgia State, I had that folder with me that was a 2-page outline of, okay, here's what I would do differently. And here's how I would start 100 days in, those type of situations, haven't had that experience. And so it's easy to, I think the second time you transition through, having been through the fires, nothing surprises you. You don't overreact to things. And I think that's the biggest adjustment you make with familiarity of doing the job before.
Yeah, I remember watching that Michigan game with a Michigan friend, and it was hilarious to watch him just have to watch that game. And you're right, it sticks around still to this day. It reminds me of Butler's basketball run. It's just some schools have those things that just stick with you. The other thing cool about that university is Eric Church and Luke Combs.
Yeah, I knew about Eric Church when I was there. Luke Combs obviously is new to the table, but yeah, it's been fun. I knew I had a pretty good relationship with Mark. When I came here, when I was Christmas, I found out he was a Michigan guy. He kind of identifies with Michigan, having worked there, and so I had a nice DVD from the game that the Fox Sports guys had put together for us. That I said that was his Christmas present. And somebody said, "Man, you're crazy to give your boss that." And I'm like, that's the beauty of sports, right? Just want to make sure I can share a moment with him. And
yeah, now you guys are teammates now, so it was okay
exactly.
to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's kind of keep it with the Sun Belt. Really, so you are the representative for the Sun Belt in the D1 Council, the NCAA D1 Council. Is it challenging for an athletic director to represent not only their institution at those meetings, but also you're representing every school in your conference? And I think everyone knows it's not necessarily fair from conference to conference, school to school in Division I, but how does one balance that particular responsibility of knowing you're not just there for Georgia State when you're on these NCAA committees?
My first thought about the NCAA Council, frankly, is the fact that the tremendous leadership that Grace Calhoun has put in. She's the chair of the committee. She's the AD at Penn, and it boggles my mind that I get to sit and listen to conversations and have an opinion one way or the other and ultimately vote. She's in the middle of all this and trying to explain it, multiple times during the week. And obviously the commitment of time with COVID and all the issues related to scheduling and games and the like, eligibility issues. We spent more time on Zoom calls on the council probably than I have with my own staff. And the preparation that goes in at Sunbelt ADs, we meet every day, every Tuesday, every Friday for 2 hours via Zoom, and we're discussing issues and the conversations. But the things quickly evolve, and so I know how our league feels about issues. I get the opportunity to represent our league in those issues, and so that's not been difficult. The time commitment has been incredible. Just this past Wednesday, it was a 5.5 hour meeting related to what we were going to do with basketball. And the national media will cover certain topics, but if it's covered, if one topic's covered with the national media, there's 6 or 7 others that we've had just as long a conversation or discussion about.
Yeah, those meetings, when I was in Division II, I served on some NCAA committees, and I don't think they realize what goes into that and how much thought goes into those types of meetings. And the NCAA does a great job kind of convening those things too at the national office.
The staff work, the amount of work that's put in the staff. I mean, sometimes I marvel. We've had 375-page agendas. We've had 83-page agendas. I think that's the shortest, and it's a lot of information to cover and understand. And honestly, I don't have a compliance background. I tip my hat to those that do, because just the nuances and the specificity of some of this stuff is just, it's mind-boggling. And, but we do the best we can.
Well, Charlie, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the Higher Ed Athletics podcast.
I appreciate you having me on. I thank you for doing this. I think it's an invaluable learning tool for everyone. And can't leave, if somebody finds one thing, that's pretty cool.